Hi, I'm Dr. Diane Hamilton from DrDianeHamilton.com and CuriosityCode.com, and you're listening to the Social Media Talks podcast with Alan Hennessy from CompassMedia.ie.
Hi there, this is Alan here from the Social Media Talks podcast, and before we begin this episode, we'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors and also our supporters. The Social Media Talks podcast is sponsored by ContentCal, creating a solution to simplify and speed up how teams can plan, collaborate on, approve, publish and analyze social media content in a familiar and intuitive calendar interface. In just 3 years, they have been trusted by over 10,000 businesses and agencies in 110 countries to deliver social media content at scale and have recently won an award for the Content Management Tool of the Year. For more information on ContentCal, visit their website at contentcal.io. We would also like to remind you the Social Media Talks podcast is proudly supported by charityradio.ie, one of Ireland's leading online radio stations supporting charities across Ireland for free. And now, this week's episode.
Welcome to Social Media Talks podcasts, brought to you by compassmedia.ie.
Hello and thank you for joining me. This is the Social Media Talks podcast, brought to you by compassmedia.ie, episode number 69. I'm your host, Alan Hennessy, and this is the podcast to help business owners who want to learn more about social media marketing. And if you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/podcasts. You can also join our Facebook group by logging on to facebook.com/groups/social media talks. And we're looking forward to today's show. Today I'm going to be joined by Dr. Diane Hamilton. And Diane is an award-winning speaker, nationally syndicated radio host, curiosity and emotional intelligence expert, author and educator. And she is a thought leader in the field of leadership, sales, marketing, management, engagement, personalities, curiosity and motivation to help improve relationships in the workplace and performance as a result of this as well. And Dr. Diane Hamilton draws on her decades of work experience in software, computers, corporate training, pharmaceuticals, real estate, mortgage lending, social media, education and publishing. She is a sought-after expert in emotional intelligence, and her research has been published widely in peer-reviewed journals. And she is the author of the Curiosity Code Index and the author of 4 books sold worldwide, including Cracking the Curiosity Code, the Online Student's User Manual, How to Reinvent Your Career, and It's Not You, It's Your Personality. And Dr. Diane Hamilton's success in multiple industries and authoring books, and her career as an MBA program chair and assistant professor propelled her into a speaking world, and now she is regularly hired by companies like Forbes to speak to organizations to increase engagement, improve productivity and reduce conflict. And today we're going to be talking to Dr. Diane Hamilton all about her new book and also about cracking the Curiosity Code. So without further ado, I think we will transition straight over to the interview with Dr. Diane Hamilton. Hi Diane, how are you? Thanks for joining us today on the Social Media Talks podcast. It's a pleasure to have your company. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this.
Brilliant stuff. And of course, I suppose we should be actually calling you Dr. Diane Hamilton because give you your official title.
That is my official title, but I definitely have people call me Diane, so please do.
Brilliant stuff. So I think before we start, maybe you might give us a brief introduction of yourself. I've given you a small introduction at the start of the podcast, but just, I suppose, to give us a little bit more background on yourself first before we dig into our chosen topic, which I'm really excited to find out about and curious, as I say.
Yes, I love that. Well, I am not sure exactly what everybody knows about me, but I have been in so many different industries throughout my career, that have culminated to where I am now, which right now I'm a nationally syndicated radio show host. I'm an author, a speaker, a consultant. I'm the creator of a Curiosity Code Index, which is an assessment that went with my book I just wrote, Cracking the Curiosity Code, which is my book. But I've written several books, and a lot of them are behavioral based on writing my dissertation on emotional intelligence got me interested in a lot of behavioral based things. And since then, I've also taught a lot of courses in different universities. I was the MBA program chair at the Forbes School of Business, and with that university and a lot of other universities, I say I've taught more than 1,000 business courses, but I think it's closer to 2,000. I don't even know how many now. I've taught so many. So I have a really kind of sales and computers and just lots of different things in my background that I've done. I was pharmaceutical sales. I sold computers. I've sold real estate and lending and just all kinds of things in the sales arena. But I also love social media quite a bit. I wrote a brand publishing course when I worked at Forbes with the work from just different things they've done with just looking at vendors and different things for marketing and not just strictly social media. But I've had a lot of social media experts on my show, as we talked about earlier off the air. And I'm very interested in teaching. I teach a lot of social media based marketing kind of based courses still, as well as HR and leadership. So got a real strong business leadership management kind of background.
When do you get the time to sleep? That's the question I would ask.
It's worse now because I'm still teaching for about 7 different universities. At one point, I worked for 10 at a time. And, I'm running my company. Tenera is my company where I go and I consult and speak and do all the things I do. But I also have my radio show, which, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time in the United States. And so, you've got an hour of you definitely have to meet, or you have dead air. So, I do have quite a bit that I'm doing, but I do sleep. I just sleep early. I'm not the life of the party, trust me. I'm the one who gets up at 4 a.m. So crazy, but you and I are probably on the same time zone, time frame, even though you're clear across the world, because I'm getting up too early.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. And of course, today we're going to be talking a lot about, as you said, your new book. The book that you wrote is Cracking the Curiosity Code. And it's an interesting title and an interesting subject because it's something that I suppose, in a sense, we all have it, but I think, it's something that it's not really thought of. It's it's just there type of thing. But I think there is so much more detail in this. And I've had a quick look at the book, and I've also, just looking over the website and looking at the index code and stuff like that. And I think it's very interesting. I'd love to know how this all sort of came about, first off.
Well, I've interviewed so many billionaires and fascinating people on my show who have just been amazingly successful, from Steve Forbes to Ken Fisher to Ken Fisher I interviewed in person. I'm trying to think, a lot of them I've met in person. Keith Kroc from DocuSign, just Craig from Craigslist, Newmark, just so many amazing people, Naveen Jain. Some of these people were just so successful, and it just blew me away of how much they cared about reading and learning everything they could possibly get their hands on. And then I'd teach some courses, and my students sometimes would just want me to just tell them how to do things instead of, have them figure it out based on giving them a little bit of help. They wanted all the help kind of sometimes. And I kept looking at them thinking, I know you want to teach them to fish instead of handing them the fish. And I'm thinking, how can I develop that sense of wanting, desire to learn, desire to figure out how to do it yourself? If your computer crashes, not hiring somebody to fix it, but just actually trying to get in there and solve it.
Do it yourself, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was trying to instill that. And I thought, well, why did these people have such, the billionaires and the top CEOs and all these people have such an instinct and a natural inclination to want to be curious and to explore things? And then some of my students, some of them are really curious, but some of them weren't. And I thought, well, I kind of like to write a book on curiosity because I was always a super curious person. I was one of those annoying kids that said, why, until you just wanted to shoot me, right? So I think a lot of people are curious, but they have tunnel vision sometimes. They just go down one area and they don't really expand what they look into. And I think that some people get intimidated. The social media can be overwhelming to them, for example, or, and they think, well, I'll just learn Facebook, or I'll just learn Twitter, or I'll just learn one thing. It's just like whatever topic you're talking about, people sometimes just get into one thing and they fear maybe going outside of these certain areas. And I started to think fear was a big factor in what was holding people back. But I thought, well, what good is it to just write a book about curiosity if there's other books about motivation and drive and finding your why, and all the great books out there talk about drive and motivation and all those things. And curiosity to me was different than that, because I think curiosity is the spark to motivation and drive. And there's definitely books on curiosity, but a lot of them were explaining what curiosity is. And I didn't want to just be another book explaining what something is, because we have those. So what I wanted to do was discover what holds people back from being curious, because if you could figure out where you are, you could figure out how to get farther down, down the road. And I wanted to look at that. So what I started to realize as I was halfway into researching this is that I really need to come up with an assessment to go along with the book. And, others have done that. I mean, Travis Bradbury with his emotional intelligence, and Strengths Finders, and Sally Hogshead. Just name all the different people in the books and the things out there. There are different people who have done that kind of thing, but there was nothing like that with curiosity. And all the assessments for curiosity were based on just how curious you are. It just gave you a level. You're sort of curious, you're more curious, or And I didn't really care for that, because it didn't tell me where I needed to go or what was stopping me. So I thought I need to create an assessment which determines just what's holding me back. And so I did a lot of research to find out what people thought held them back from curiosity. And then I hired, psychometric statisticians, and I started doing it myself when they couldn't figure out how to do it. And then I did a lot of research, did my own factor analysis, spent a lot of time remembering statistics, which is horrible, as I recall. And it was, but I kind of started to get to like it at the end, and I'm working with it again on another project now. But what I started to learn was, there were really 4 factors that were holding people back. And those 4 factors were fear, assumptions, which is really the talk in your head that you say to yourself, technology, and environment, everybody that's been around you your whole life, basically. And as I started to look at it, they were kind of evenly dispersed as far as how much each of those factors were impacting people. Yeah. And I think this really hit a nerve with so many people. If you look at the front of my book of the people who have reviewed it to say how they liked it. I mean, I had Keith Kroc, the billionaire behind DocuSign, wrote the foreword, and Steve Forbes wrote a nice blurb for the front of the book. And then, you look inside and you've got Vern Harnish. I mean, top names, Ken Fisher, big names are all saying, this could be the next thing to enhance human performance, because there's nothing like it. So that's kind of where it came from. It started as a book and turned into a big project.
Yeah, because I could see even with that, you could actually, just listen to what you're saying there. And as you say, you started out thinking about it, and then obviously it started to get more of a project. And I suppose, and that's the curiosity road as much as anything else, that where is this actually going to go? And then it sparks another flame, and then you start thinking all these different things. But I understand what you mean by when you're talking about, I suppose, the 4, and I think you use the acronym, I think it's FATE, is it? Yeah, it's FATE. The fear, assumption, technology, and environment. And I think I suppose there is that fear of being curious, that we get stuck into a situation where we say to ourselves, all right, well, I know enough that I know as much as I need to know. But I think when someone says, oh, well, will you have a look at this, that you go, automatically there is a fear and saying, oh gosh, can I really should I be doing this or shouldn't I be doing this? And, as you say, the assumption then comes into it saying, blah, blah. So I think it's fascinating, if nothing else, when it comes to...
Yeah, you're bringing up a lot of the assumptions that we come up with in our minds, because fear holds us back because we don't want to look stupid. We don't want to be made fun of. We don't want to be the one in the meeting room that who asks the question that nobody wants to ask, because what if you say something that's completely off base and then you look ridiculous, kind of thing. So fear really holds a lot of people back from asking questions. And if you've also provided information like suggestions in the past and someone's shut you down, you're afraid of that too. So, there's a lot of things and some of these things overlap. You can have fear of technology. You can have, fear based because of things that happened to you in your environment, and past bosses maybe made fun of you or did something, that made you uncomfortable. So some of these overlap, but I think it was really important to look at each of these. So as you mentioned, fear is a huge one, but assumptions are big too, because you're talking in your mind. You're saying, well, I think I know everything I already need to know. Why would I need to learn anything else? And you're thinking, this seems stupid. I didn't like this the last time. Why would I want to do that again? Or, you've got these dialogues that you have in your mind, and some of them are influenced from your environment, from, things that have happened when you were young. But a lot of them, you just don't realize what your mind is saying to you based on your past experience. So, you've got that. And then with technology, a lot of people just find it overwhelming. They don't know where to start, or it's why even do it, because technology figures it out for you. Why would I even want to know how to divide that, or how to calculate this, or where to look this up, or, there's so many things that technology can impact. And then your environment, to me, is a really huge one, because your family, your teachers, your friends, your peers, social media. Think about social media, the impact it has on, you don't want to look stupid. You don't want to like something that someone else doesn't like. Look at how many people want likes on their pictures. If they don't get it, then they take them down, because you don't want to look like, well, this wasn't good enough. But your environment really impacts everything. If you've had parents that expected you to always be in the police force, or everybody was an accountant, or everybody did this or did that, you might have always been expected to take over the family business, or whatever it is. In your teachers, they often don't have time to answer questions that maybe aren't based on curriculum, and things that maybe just because of you've got 30 kids to teach, and how can you answer every single question every child has. So that's why you see a lot of children start off with everybody starts off with this high level of curiosity, and then around 4, 5, 6 years old, it starts to decrease.
And so, you can see that, like, as I suppose. And I know you said it in the book that when we're born, we are born with curiosity, because obviously everything's new and everything is exciting, and even as a baby, I suppose that's the way it is. But I think as over time, I know Ken Robinson, he wrote an article, and he'd done that famous TED talk about the children being creative and stuff like that. And I found that fascinating. And it struck a chord with me, where I was actually sort of thinking, well, I have 2 girls, and I don't want them to be that way. And in the sense that I want them to be as creative as they can be, and not hold them back. And I think as we grow older, and as we get older, we start to lose that spark. But I think it's about reconnecting with it and sort of saying, right, okay, well, right, I'm not as curious as I used to be. Whereas I think it's so important in everything we do, in our our well-being, our health, our mindfulness, everything. And I think it just creates productivity, I suppose, in the sense from that.
You bring up a couple of words that are really important when you talk about Ken Robinson. He's talking about creativity, and I think it was like 98% were genius level at age 2, and then they get older and it flips around. They're all like 2% by the time they're in their 20s, kind of thing. And creativity is so much a factor of curiosity. So is productivity, which you brought up. And if you think about it this way, curiosity is the spark. You've got this match that lights the spark that leads to motivation and drive. And if you have motivation and drive, that impacts all the things we're talking about here in terms of creativity, engagement, teamwork, leadership, conflict resolution, critical thinking, decision making. You name anything that's going to eventually lead into even being innovative. I mean, everybody wants to be innovative right now, right? And all those things tie into productivity. So if you can work on the spark that creates all of that, it was so interesting when I started to write about different chapters, I'm like, well, that ties back. Emotional intelligence ties back. Soft skills ties back. Everything tied back to this. And I kept thinking, you just ask any leader what their top issues are, that you can tie them all back to improving curiosity, because who's not worried about engagement right now? Who's not worried about all these things, right? So I think with the time of AI and artificial intelligence, everybody's really concerned that their jobs are going to be taken away. And you have all these people who are going to be, maybe have to find new alignment things. And why not align them to something that they'd actually like to do more and they'd be better at? And how better to do that than to have them explore their natural sense of curiosity? And all that will improve engagement, and which in the end works, towards better productivity, and everybody ends up making more money, which is what everybody wants.
And I think that's, as you say, it's the core of it is that curiosity and having that spark, as you say, to start it, because that's where it is. It does start back there. And it's only now that you're saying that I'm even listening to this and I'm saying to myself, it's so true. But it's, and and we spoke with a number of people on the podcast, and we've all talked about, simplicity and stuff like that. And I think really this is what it is. But I think we get so crowded and everything's so noisy around us that we actually, if we don't step back and sort of say, well, where does it actually begin? And even like that, I would have never gone back to as far as that curiosity. I would have gone back to say, okay, right, well, you need to learn, or you need to motivate yourself, or you need to be creative. And I would have sort of started at the creative piece and then moved forward, as opposed to going, I suppose, a number of steps back to that curiosity.
Right. And that's pretty common that a lot of people do that. Because we all know that motivation and drive are so important, but you have to go right back to the beginning. And there's different types of curiosity, which was interesting to me to research curiosity. I give a lot of background in the book, but I don't want it to be real scholarly, boring. I have it very readable for everybody, because I want this book for everybody in the workplace. And I think that it's important, though, to know that there's two kinds of curiosity. There's that innate, that internal, they call it trait curiosity. And then there's more of a state curiosity, which is external. And that's just like a fleeting thing, oh, pretty blue, what was that? As it went by as you're driving, kind of. But in the day in, day out, we're working on this epistemic, they call it, which is your trait internal curiosity. And that could be very specific. You want to get that. You don't want it the diversive type where you're just motivated by boredom, basically, and then you go rabbit hole of just playing Candy Crush all afternoon. You don't want that. What you want is to set it up in a real goal-oriented, problem-focused, specific way. And that's what I do in my training that I do with people. What they do is they read the book, they take the assessment. They don't have to read the book. They don't have to take the assessment. Everything's separate, but they can do it's recommended everybody does it together. And if they take the assessment, they get their results like you would almost see an emotional intelligence test, an engagement survey, any of those, how they give you the 10, 20 pages of PDF of all your different results and what it means. And they get that. And part of that, what they receive is a way to overcome some of these issues that they've had, and it gives them a plan, tells them how to create an action plan to make it measurable to get these issues that they have and improve. Because everybody's impacted to some extent. Nobody's going to have 100% perfect on, fear not affecting them or whatever. And it's not, what this is meant to do is just to make you aware of the discussion that needs to occur, even in your own head, if not with somebody else, that, oh yeah, maybe that did impact that. And maybe I should drive a different way to work just to look at something new, or maybe I should read a different section of the newspaper just to just do something different,
Yes.
And there's just little changes you could make that open up your mind to just, I thought history was boring, but maybe if I read this book by this guy that everybody says is so interesting, maybe I would find that something helpful. Maybe if I traveled here, that history would come alive for me. Maybe, there's so many different aspects to, just your personal life. And then if you think about it in the workplace, the cross-training, opportunities, the different things that you could do in the work setting that could help you be more innovative and productive. It's just staggering when you start to think of the impact it could make.
Massively. And I would totally agree that, like, we were actually, and it's just something that you said there that, you know, it made me think is we were actually at our daughter's parent teacher meeting, and the English teacher said she needs to read more books. And we were saying, yeah, but she's not a big reader. And she says she just hasn't found her author. She just hasn't found that part. And I just went, and I suppose in a sense that's the essence of it. Like that, you know, if, as you say, you don't like history or whatever, maybe try it from a different angle, but it's there, you know, and it's really is. I think it's very important. And even as you say, it's that internal thing as well. Like I studied NLP, and it's about getting into people's heads, and we all know that and whatever, and understanding, not so much getting into their heads, but to understand how their mind, how the mind works. And it's only when you open up. And I remember always when I was going to start the course, and a guy who had done it, he actually said to me, he says, whatever they ask you to do in the course, do it, because it will make sense at the end of it. And it helped me because it made me a lot more open to different suggestions or different ways of thinking. So I think it brings that on as much as anything else.
Well, you know, there's just so many things that you can do in a work setting, for example, to become just more well-rounded and to think in a different way. Right now, everybody's got to be innovative, and you can't do status quo thinking anymore. It's just, there's too much AI, there's too much happening. There's too many blockbusters of the world. There's too many Kodaks of the world who thought that way and just got slaughtered. And everybody knows that now. So, you know, I give some examples in the book of different companies and issues that have been, you know, to demonstrate how outside the box thinking, not status quo thinking. Well, you know, in the book, I started to write about some different things, different stories of what was successful for other companies where they didn't just think within their cubicle or within their department or within their silo. I mean, they really got some outside thinking because, you know, we don't want to have these situations where we become irrelevant or we're not productive. And a hospital in England was having difficulty with their efficiency of their patients and their beds and all their how they did things was just very inefficient. And one of the leaders happened to see a race car team put together, take a car apart and put it back together in 7 seconds. And, you know, just the astounding nature of how efficient they were blew him away. And he thought, well, why can't they come in and take a look at what we're doing and give us some advice? And they did, and they improved their efficiency by 50%. Now, you know, it's thinking outside your own little world, your own little industry, your own everything. And I think we're going to see a lot more crossover effects now with people looking outside of just the status quo for the same old answers because they aren't going to work anymore. Yeah,
and I think and I think it's in the age that we're living in now, though. I think that people I think we have to do that now. I think because as much as it'll help us, it also challenges us as well. And by challenging us, it gives us that opportunity to learn and to, as you say, you know, and to diversify as well. And it creates that productivity and engages you as much as anything else, as an individual, but also as whether it be a team or whether it be an actual company, that there's a lot more engagement within that. So I think there's a huge amount of value in doing that.
Yes, it's just something that we're going to see a lot of changes in the workplaces. You know, we all hear the numbers of how many companies aren't going to be here in the next, you know, 10, 15, 20, 50 years. And nobody wants to be another statistic. And we're going to see a lot of people changing how they train people. And that's what we're really doing with the Curiosity Code Index, is just opening up a dialogue about here's how we can help with these things. And we're training a lot of leadership consultants and HR professionals to become certified to give this, because in the training I mentioned, you know, if you just take this assessment, you get a little bit of input as far as, you know, this is what you can do to help yourself personally. But when we get people certified to go out to organizations, or if I go to organizations to train them, we go deeper. We do reports that we help people, of course, with their own personal curiosity issues. But then once they've learned that they understand this importance of curiosity, they help the trainers and me or whoever's doing the training class to learn to create this feedback to give to leaders about here's what you can do to help me to be more critical thinker, better innovative idea maker, all these things. You list the top things that companies are struggling with, engagement. Let's just take one of them. And in these training classes, we go around and we go, give us some exercises that you think would help you to get better in these areas, that would help you develop your curiosity. And then the trainers learn to compile all of these answers from all of their employees and give this back to leaders. So they're basically doing a leader's job for them and their own job, and they're getting all this from everybody. And everybody wins because it's coming straight from the horse's mouth of what the horse needs, right? So it's a very efficient way of solving a lot of problems in a way that nobody's really doing it.
I think that, and I think that's great because, like, as you say, is coming from the horse's mouth, but it actually is, because it means then as well, because you feel, I suppose as well, the employee as well feels they're involved in that decision making because they've helped. And, it's like everything. And, when it comes to businesses, is if you don't ask questions and if you don't find out what the issues are, you're never going to be able to fix them. So you're never, ever going to be able to find a solution that's going to work or that's going to, move it along that pathway to actually, developing it and bringing it everyone, I suppose, to a better place. And there's more contentment and happiness, and it adds into everything I think we do.
Definitely. And I think that we're going to see a lot more just people feeling more confident in that they've had a sense that what they've said is incorporated. And as you look at engagement numbers being in the hundreds of billions a year that's being spent, right, due to poor engagement, one of the biggest things is people want to know how what they do matters to the overall goals. And if you're hearing from people, this is what I need, and they're getting that feedback from you now, and they're telling you how I need it, the way I need it, and what can help all of us so that I'm aligned properly. I'm engaged, because if I have to change jobs, I certainly want to be in something that it's engaging for me. And then, you're providing the feedback that I crave, which is part of my curiosity.
Yeah. And I think that's very true. And I even see that when we're training, and I would always say to anyone any of the students that we're training or any of the companies that we're training is, don't just tell people what you do. Ask them, what is it that they want? Because they're going to tell you. And by doing that, it gives you a better opportunity to serve them and to help them. And, the more curious that you are with your questions, the more you're going to get back from it. And as you say, it's a win-win situation for everybody, because everyone then starts to feel involved. And I think on a personal level, with regards to curiosity, is there certain things that we should look at first before we go, obviously, and take the curiosity code index? Is there things that we should look at before that, and just to get us started with our curiosity and get that spark back?
I would look at some of the things that you think you don't like, and why you don't like them. Think of what your voice in your head's saying. Are you hearing that, oh, my family thought that was stupid, or I was never good at that, or it sounds boring, or what? I think a lot of it is listening to some of the assumptions that you make, and you can just try different things, exploring different areas at work that you never thought of. Just learn something about something different at work, and see what that department does that you've never even looked into. Maybe it's something that is just something you never even thought about, that there's just different aspects to your job that would be interesting. I'm trying to think of an example for social media, since this is such a social media focused thing. For me, I guess I do a lot of social media because of, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and everything, and I guess I do the least amount on Instagram. And I started to think about, why is that? And I think it's because you do it so much from your phone, and I can't see it so well,
I have to admit, I do agree. I've like that. I've started to do a little bit more on Instagram, and I should, because that's obviously what I do. But at the same token, I think I would agree with you. It's because you're on your phone. I have some.
It's hard to see for some of us who our eyes aren't as great as they used to be. But, there's things, and you start to think, okay, so, I think sometimes, you can look at Instagram on your computer later, if you want to look at something. I think I started to think, well, my job's not really something that people can look at all day long because I'm at my computer or I'm sitting in my exercise clothes or whatever. I'm not just sitting here doing the most glamorous things. But, I think, though, analyzing why something isn't as appealing as something else to you, and thinking what could you do to make it a little more interesting, and what could you do to think about when you're promoting yourself or promoting your company or promoting whatever it is you're on social media, if it's your brand, if it's you, if it's not your brand, it's your product or whatever it is. I think it's interesting to look at what other people are doing and think, why would they do it that way? If they're so successful, what are they doing differently that I'm not doing? And just ask yourself some questions about that. And how often are they doing it? Just write down a lot of questions like that. How often are they doing it? What are they including that I'm not including? How did they get to this level? Just ask all the how, what, why type of questions as you look at maybe a company or a person or a brand that you'd like to emulate to some extent. But don't try to imitate too much, because we want to create something completely unique. So that's the thing. Sometimes people try too hard to be exactly like something else. And I think that there's the Zuckerbergs who can look at MySpace and go, well, yeah, that's great. I'll take this, this, and that. But I don't need this, this, and that. And you got to figure out that, what's you and what you can add that's different. And I think it's a lot of self-analysis, and that's what we do in the training, a lot of self-analysis.
Yeah. And I think as a good friend of mine, he always says, there's a difference between just doing it and being a bit brave. And I think sometimes you have to be a bit more brave than and just try something and see if it works. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, but you won't know, as you say, until that curiosity, you're going to find out. You're going to find out that I could sit here and talk about this all day. I just find it's a fascinating subject, and I'm going to get off this podcast straight away and go and get this book, because I'm just listening to the conversation here. I want to read it, I'm one of these people, I probably will read it in a day, because I won't be able to put it down. So looking forward to it. But so the name of the book is Cracking the Curiosity Code, and it's available in your local bookstores, and also, of course, on Amazon and all of the usual outlets to where you can buy books. And I think it's obviously on Kindle and all that. It's all on every format.
It's everywhere, and it's also on Audible. It was read by Dion Graham, who is one of the best narrators ever. He's won every award you could possibly win, and he's amazing. He does like Neil deGrasse Tyson's books, and he actually was on my show once, and he's a friend, and did an amazing job with the audiobook if you're into audiobooks. And it's on curiositycode.com is the main website. You could go through that on my website to get to it. But of course, it's always easy to go to Borders, Amazon, and all those places to get it as well.
Brilliant stuff. At the end of every show, I ask my guest one question. It's not related to the podcast. The question I ask is if you had the chance to invite someone to dinner, whether it be past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's pretty easy for me. It's Einstein. I'm so fascinated in it. He was so curious. I mean, you look up curiosity quotes and about 9 out of 10 of them are his. And so I loved watching the Genius, the show they did on him, titled Genius, the first season was on his life. I just loved the sense of humor that he combined with intelligence, with so many factors. I could just ask him questions all night. So definitely would have to be Einstein.
Very good. And what is it I see? And there's actually, you have a quote. One of the quotes in the book is I have no special talents. I'm just passionately curious. I love that one from him as well. Fantastic. Dr. Diane Hamilton, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I am so happy that you are able to join us here on the podcast. How can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out and talk to you a little bit more?
Well, thank you. It was an honor to be on your show, and people can reach me in social media. I'm at Dr. Diane Hamilton, so DrDianeHamilton, and all the different social media sites. They can also go to my main website, which is DrDianeHamilton.com. or the book site, which is curiositycode.com.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. It has been an absolute pleasure, and thanks so much for joining us today on the podcast. It has. I really enjoyed this. So thank you. and you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
So my thanks to Dr. Diane Hamilton for coming on the podcast today and sharing with us some fantastic insights into curiosity. And if you'd like to pick up a copy of her book called Cracking the Curiosity Code, you can do so by visiting her website at curiositycode.com, or you can also connect with her directly through her website at DrDianeHamilton.com. And you'll also find all of her social links there as well on her website. So once again, my thanks to Dr. Diane Hamilton for coming on the podcast today and chatting with us. And if you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/podcasts. And all of our podcasts are available on Mixcloud, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we would be delighted if you would leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, as we are always thrilled to receive your feedback on the show. You can also subscribe to the podcast there, so you never miss an episode either. And if you'd like the show notes for this episode or for any of the previous episodes, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/show notes. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast here with us, you can get in contact with us by email at smtalks@compassmedia.ie. And if you'd like to find out more about the services that Compass Media provide, from social media marketing, training and podcast services, please visit our website for more details. You can also reach out to me and connect with me across all of the social media platforms, from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. All you have to do is search for Alan Hennessy or for Compass Media. That's about my lot for today. Until next time I see you, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week for another podcast. All that's left for me to say is have a great day, and as I always say, be social. Until next time, bye-bye.
Social Media Talks podcast is a production from compassmedia.ie.